Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacqueline. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacqueline at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck speaking, and thank you to the technology gods. We are back up and running. This is USA Global TV and radio, and our show today is Talking Heads. If you've never watched a Talking Heads episode, you are in for a treat. This program, this platform for Talking Heads is by invitation only. Experts come from around the world to share their knowledge, their expertise, and their experience in their own 30-minute show. Joining me today as our expert presenter is Mr. Red.olaughlin, who was actually just doing the duty of two of us on the last show as I was unable to join. So let's welcome him. Hello, Red. Nice to see you.
Good to see you, actually. It's not normally I say good to see you again. It's just been a few minutes, but you gave me some good opportunities today to improve my TV appearance, and I appreciate the positive critique. I really do. So thank you for that one.
You're welcome. The one thing I say about television is you have to be prepared for the unexpected. You never know what will happen. So in this case, my screen was frozen and you jumped in and I was able to produce it. So thank you again for that. And I'm going to go produce again for this show and let you start off with your lesson. Just let me know when you need your slides. Have a great
I shall
show.
do that. Thank you very much, Dr. Jacqueline. Hi, Red.olaughlin here. I'm a researcher. My first love was chemistry, long before I met my wife of almost 54 years now. I got a degree in it, got an invitation to Vietnam, never had a chance to practice it. But I research what goes on in the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem. Treat a symptom, and you'll always be treating the symptom. You need to be able to treat a cause in order to fix something. And so when I look at various aspects of health and wellness, that's the area that I love to research, particularly in the niche of longevity, aging. How can we slow down the aging process? How can we live a better, healthier end of life? None of us want to be dependent on somebody to change our diaper for the last 5 or 10 years of our life. That's not a good quality of life. We want to have a life that we can enjoy just as much in our 30s and 40s as we can in our 60s, 70s, and 80s and beyond. So one aspect of good long-term health is heart health. I've done a program previous to this on brain health, primarily looking at age-related diseases. This particular one is looking at heart and heart-related diseases. We've covered that the last 3, I guess maybe the first 4 presentations on this topic. We looked at what actually causes heart disease. What is the absolute beginning part of that? When a cell becomes inflamed and takes this particular pathway up and stops there, we can control it at some point along the way. And that's what we're looking to do, is make changes that can either make something go in the right direction or slow it down, or best case, stop it completely. And so when we look at those things, heart disease is really dependent on our lifestyle, the choices we make for foods and other things in our lives that we have control over. So if we can control what we're doing, then we should be able to have a healthier body, a healthier life. And that I think is the goal of a lot of people, especially particularly as you get older in life and retirement is there, or maybe over your shoulder because you've already been retired. And just because you are retired doesn't mean you can't make some changes. Most of the literature says you can't reverse some kinds of cardiovascular disease. And that may be true from some perspectives, but there are things you can do to certainly make your life a whole lot better. So why don't we go ahead and start, and I'm going to have Dr. Jacqueline bring our slides up today, just have a few of them today. So I'm talking today about heart health, but I'm looking at habits, hacks, and hints, a little bit of alliteration today for that. The first thing that we need to do if we're going to have a a better health overall, doesn't matter any aspect of what we're doing, we need to become a master at reading labels. The labels tell us the nutritional value, not everything, but most everything that's in there. And if we're having a problem with a certain aspect of say, too much sugar, too much salt, too much whatever, then this gives us a way of determining exactly what is in that particular thing that we're eating. Now, most people will look at, okay, fine, it's got 3 grams of this or 15 grams of that. But what they don't look at is the serving size. It may be that the particular package that you have might have 10 servings in it, and you look at the uh, basic ingredients, that's not too bad. I can have that. And you eat the whole box. And then you find out later on, or maybe never find out, that you actually had 10 times that amount. So the first thing you really need to concentrate on the labels is the serving size, because that is the one that tells you how much of all that stuff is really there. Let's talk about, what can we do from a habit, from a hack, or from a hint perspective that will make our lives a little bit better, and in particular our hearts a little healthier. Well, first one is salt. I think a lot of people know that too much salt is bad for us. We hear that if you cut out salt, your blood pressure will go down, but salt actually causes fluid to build up in the heart and in the lungs, and increases our risk of high blood pressure. Some of the symptoms are like frequent urination, persistent thirst, swelling. Sometimes our foods taste extra bland or even boring. Uh, some of us might experience a little more headaches, mild headaches than normal. And again, that's because of that extra salt that we have. And ironically, because you have extra salt, you actually crave salty foods. A couple different ways to get rid of that. One is to increase your sodium potassium intake. Your oranges and bananas and green vegetables, tomatoes and stuff. That extra potassium will balance out that sodium. Another really good way to do it, and one that I prefer to do, is to sweat, because it actually allows that excess salt to come out. When I was in college, I was working for the post office in Corpus Christi, and most of the time I drove a truck, but occasionally I ended up uh, delivering mail. And because I'm a redhead and I had to really protect myself from the sun, I would wear a ball cap and a long sleeve shirt. And if the shirt happened to be a particular color, I had one that was kind of a reddish, light red color. I would get done at the end of the day, and when my shirt dried out, I'd have these salt stains all over my sleeves. And I just, oh, that's kind of neat. That's interesting. So I know from a personal experience that when you sweat, you're getting rid of those extra salt crystals in the body. So salt is one thing that we can live with. I use Himalayan salt, the pink salt. It has a 70 or more micronutrients that are also needed in the body. Regular table salt, I would avoid if at all possible. Look seriously at a sea salt or a Himalayan salt. Sugar, again, modicum amount, moderate, it's fine. It's the excess that we have to worry about. When you have excess sugar, you're probably a candidate for diabetes. Your risk of hypertension increases. Inflammation is all over. Might notice it by weight gain, headaches, irritability, fatigue. Sometimes you're constantly hungry because it seems like that hunger is brought on by having extra sugar in the body. You might even see a little bit of bloating. One way to tackle that again is hydration. If your body is full, then you're not craving anything. And so hydration is a good way of controlling that. But again, read the labels and realize how much sugar you're actually taking in. And if you're into an area of insulin resistance, now we have some problems down the road that we need to look at. There are so many things when we start looking at diet, fats, and things like that. So let's just dive into the diets. There are just so many different kinds of diets out there. The one particular school of thought says, eat 4 to 6 small meals a day. I strongly recommend to not do that. And my primary recommendation is that every time you're putting food in, if you're not really paying attention to what you're eating, you're increasing your sugar load. That extra sugar gets into the bloodstream, and you never allow your body to fully process everything out. And so you're just providing an environment that is conducive to pre-diabetes or diabetes down the road. one or two, at most 3 meals a day. And it's kind of hard if you're on 3 meals a day and that's what you've been doing. It's a habit, and habits are hard to break. Generally speaking, I only eat within about a 6 hour window each day. I do a 18-hour intermittent fast. And as such, I try to allow my body to fully process everything that's going through it. And so you allow your liver time to process everything, get everything out, and actually rest and relax before everything else takes on. Is keto the best, or Atkins, or Mediterranean, or whatever? They all have positive and negative aspects. I recommend what's called the Walls Protocol, WAHLS. Dr. Terry Walls is an internist. Late in life, she came down with MS, multiple sclerosis, and in the process of trying to overcome it, none of the normal medicines, treatments worked. She ended up in a wheelchair for years. She did a lot of research on autoimmune disease. She wrote a book called The Walls Protocol, again, WAHLS. And that Walls Protocol, there's 4 parts to it, and one part is the diet. And the diet portion, I became a believer when my wife had cancer, breast cancer, and she was transitioning between chemo and radiation. One of the side effects of the drugs from the chemo fog was she was constantly taking naps. She couldn't wake up. The fatigue was horrendous. Radiologist told her it would probably get worse. So we changed her diet on day 1 of radiation. 48 hours later, literally, she has not had another nap since then. We went through the months of chemo. The chemo fog disappeared in 48, 72 hours. She went through radiation completely without any problems. A week into her radiation, she was volunteering back up at the church. The last day of radiation, we actually finished the radiation around noontime, jumped in the car, headed off for Jacksonville, Florida. It's about 1,000 miles. I rented a U-Haul, and she followed me 72 hours after her last radiation treatment. And she was driving by herself 500 miles a day with no problems, no fatigue, nothing. You cannot underestimate a balanced diet, how important that is. A balanced diet with caloric restriction, in other words, you cut back. A nutritionist will tell you need about 15 calories per pound to maintain body weight. In reality, about 10 calories per pound. If it's balanced, you will be able to maintain body weight and reduce the risk of a lot of age-related diseases just because you're cutting back on the calories. Now, on the Walls Protocol, it's primarily fruits, vegetables, healthy fats, and healthy protein. No carbohydrates to speak of. Now, you're going to find carbohydrates in spinach and other leafy green vegetables that you're there, but you don't need the intensity of carbohydrates from the different products that are out there. Any kind of diet's going to avoid saturated fat and trans fats. Let's just talk about them for a minute. Your saturated fats it's kind of a strange deal on the saturated fats, because if you read one article say avoid it completely, you read another one say, that myth, we busted it. And so you're kind of in between. Who do you believe? You would love to have a diet that has unsaturated fats because that lowers your LDL, increases your HDL cholesterol, your monounsaturated, your polyunsaturated, your olive oil, chocolate, eggs, avocado, fish. Now, coconut oil is not part of that. It's a medium chain triglyceride, and I strongly recommend using that as for cooking or for a number of. I use it for underarm deodorant. I use it for a lot of things. I just had some stitches in my arm from surgery from skin cancer, and it heals scar tissue very, very, very quickly. But the issue with saturated fats is that in and of itself, it increases LDL. And these are the fats primarily from your meats and things like that. But it increases the risk of obesity, increases the risk of type 2 diabetes, it increases hypertension. But again, when you look at the actual studies and you get in there and it says, well, if you stop saturated fats, we don't necessarily see a significant improvement. Yeah, they may be able to get some percentages in there. But what is in reality happening? If you replace the saturated fats with some polyunsaturated or some unsaturated or some medium chain triglycerides, then you start seeing some, 10, 20, 30% improvement in various markers of heart disease or risks of heart disease. Now, the trans fats, those are the ones that you really and truly do need to absolutely avoid like the plague, because they do increase your LDL, they decrease HDL, the good cholesterol, and those are the ones that give you heart attack, stroke when left untreated. So that increases your heart disease risk. The FDA has actually banned them. We find some around, but that trans fat is when you actually add hydrogen to a vegetable oil, and it's supposed to make the storage life of the oil much better. It's not going to go rancid as fast. But today we see a lot of it out there, particularly in fried foods. They use it in the oils. If you go down to your local burger joint and you get the fried French fries out, the oil they have there, they don't need to change as often if it's a trans fat as opposed to another type of oil. Microwave popcorn, refrigerated dough, biscuits, non-dairy coffee creamer. All of those things are trans fats, and they are something that you should be avoiding. Healthy fats, those are the omega-3, omega-6. Now, omega-6 is an essential fatty acid. You need it. Your body can't make it. You get it from your vegetables, oil, your different ones. But again, it's a moderation thing. If you go in excess on anything, problems happen. Well, when you have an excessive amount of omega-6s, again, think fried foods, that fried oil enters the body and it causes problems in two different ways. One is AGEs. Actually, I'll think about that one in just a sec. Regardless, let's get back here to the fat issue. The fat from that oil is going to create a problem in the body that can lead to a lot of problems. So the healthy fats work great. They're the ones, the omega-3s. If you can get your omega-3 to omega-6 ratio of about 1-to-1, that's about as healthy as you're going to get. If you allow the omega-6s to get outside a 4-to-1 ratio of your omega-3s, that becomes a problem. A good standard, used to be the gold standard for heart health, was a homocysteine level check. It's a blood test that tests for homocysteine in the body. When homocysteine elevates, then your risk of heart disease goes up. Well, that is in direct correlation. If you happen to have high levels of omega-6s in the body, instead of 4-to-1, maybe 30-to-1 or 40-to-1 or higher, now your inflammation increases dramatically, homocysteines increase, and now you have a problem. Alcohol, associated with a lot of things. Again, depending on where you're at, most of them will say moderation. Now, what is moderation? For all practical purposes, it's 1 bottle of beer, 1 glass of wine, about 5 ounces, maybe 2 at most, certainly no more than 10 per week. 1.5 ounces, basically a jig and a half of alcohol if it's 40 proof. And so those are the things that if you talk about moderation. But you can also end up in a situation, let's say that you go out on a Saturday night and you're out with a bunch of friends, and you may have the situation, okay, maybe you're going to have a half a dozen beers or whatever it may happen to be. The binge drinking even once a week can, in fact, over time become a problem. So if you want to hack for that, let's say you have a bottle of beer, switch off to a bottle of water in between every bottle of beer. If I'm having a glass of wine, maybe I might want to have a glass of sparkling water or something. So which trade off in between each one, and you're going to be cutting your alcohol intake in half. Exercise. Exercise is we think about it, and if you're not an exercise person, it's just like, oh, I don't want to do it. It's just not I'm not comfortable there. But you don't have to do much more than just walk. And that's the ironic thing, is the fact that a lot of people don't even do that. They'll take an elevator rather than walk up 2 flights of stairs. Although they'll wait an extra 2 or 3 minutes to get a really close parking spot whenever they're parking someplace. There are a lot of ways of getting extra little amounts of exercise. Ideally, you would need aerobic exercise. That's the fast walking, your swimming, the things we call aerobic, any kind of running, jogging. We also need a little bit of resistance training, like weightlifting, and that could be just body weight. We can do everything just by the stretching and balance are 2 other ones. I had a a knee problem, and the surgery left me where for several months I was really favoring my right knee, my right leg. When I finally got everything fixed and I went through rehab, I was amazed at, even though I could stand and walk and I had balance with two legs, I could not stand on my bad leg for literally not even 1 second. It took me almost a month to be able to stand and balance on one leg up to over a minute. It took a lot of constant attention, a lot of extra time with that leg. My daughter and I used to go to the gym a lot and work out together. And when you get on a machine where you're sitting down and you're pushing the weights with your legs, we would do 200 plus pounds, generally speaking, was our standard. And so I'm there, and she's with me one day after my exercise, and I says, "Let me see what I can do with that just my bad leg." I couldn't even budge it. So I said, "Take a couple off." So she took them off and tried again. Took a couple more off, tried again. I found out that even though I could push 240 pounds or whatever, all I was doing is pushing with my left leg. I was not pushing with my right. I could barely almost begin to move the weights with 25 pounds. And it's one of those things that's insidious. We don't realize we have a problem, but that problem later in life can lead to balance issues. We fall down and we injure ourselves and be a severe problem. So we want to include balance in our exercise as much as we do anything else. Let's go to the next slide, Dr. Jacqueline. Weight management. Again, we all know the issues dealing with obesity. Just so many different things happen from that particular one. But the thing with weight management, when we have that extra weight around us, we increase the thickness in the heart muscle, and we increase the risk of heart failure. When we have the extra fat around our bellies, that cortisol down there causes an increase in inflammation. A very easy way to test, see how much we have, go down to your local laboratory. You can get pretty reasonable prices, generally probably under $25, to get what's called the C-reactive protein test. You don't need your doctor's permission to get this one. It will give you nearly an instantaneous reading of how much inflammation you have in the body. You like to have it as close to zero as possible. If you have something and it's high, over 5, you probably want to talk to your doctor and find out what could possibly be going wrong. Do you have some disease that's starting up that you don't know about? Do you have a cancer tumor that's in there that is unknown to everybody? If you have C-reactive protein levels that are high, something's wrong in the body and you need to find out what it is. But that's a fairly easy test. Doesn't take much time, just a little bit of blood. You lose weight, you reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes, you reduce blood pressure, hypertension. A lot of things there with weight management. Oral health, we're talking about flossing and brushing. Gum disease actually increases heart disease. There are bacteria that triggers things, inflammation. We don't even think that when we have a problem in our mouth, whether it's loose teeth or bleeding or whatever, that could even be related to heart disease. But there's a lot of issues there. If you tuned into my earlier show, we were talking about, I think it was nitric oxide. When you use a standard mouthwash, you're reducing some of the bacteria in the mouth that actually form or help form precursor to nitric oxide, which is a very, very good thing for heart health. And so when you eliminate it, now you're adding another risk factor in there. So, brushing at least once a day, twice is better. Regular cleanings. Before COVID, I was twice a year. That's what my insurance permitted. COVID shut down a lot of dentists. And I really should be back at a twice a year program. I haven't quite got there yet, but it's one of those things that it's on my to-do list. Actually, it's been on several to-do lists. It just gets transferred from one to another. But again, regular dental visits, just like a regular doctor's visit. It's one of those things you need. Stress management, can't say enough about it. If you listen to me talk about stress management, the easiest, fastest way to release stress is to smile. Just you're forcing your muscles to go back into your brain. You can't have a positive and negative thought in your brain at the same time. So as you're forcing those muscles backward, it doesn't have anywhere to go. That negativity in the brain is being replaced, forced out. So if you're just thinking, your face is going to show it. We have body reactions to things. So if you take and smile or laugh, you can actually force that back. So that's an instantaneous stress reliever. Laughing, There are a lot of shows on YouTube that you can go to, roast this, different ones, whatever kind of comedy floats your boat. Spend a little bit of time periodically just laughing your head off. It's not going to do anything but help you. Just one of those really, really good things. But you need to do it on a daily basis. You can't just do it once a month or once a week. This should be something every single day that you're doing to relieve stress. It's not what happens to you, it's what you hold on to. If you're sitting there and something happens, there's a guy or a girl that you don't particularly want to be around, that is going to increase your stress. But it's what you hold on to. Let it go. The more you let go, the less likelihood that stress has any effect on you or your stress on your health whatsoever. Smoke. When process of doing research for this, I think all of us know that smoking's bad. It causes a lot of constriction in the arteries, but it turns out that secondhand smoke can be just as deadly. About 20 to 35% of people with severe heart problems had it come from secondhand smoke. So you end up with an increased risk for heart disease, increased risk for stroke, poor lung development if you're a child. And it doesn't take but about 5 minutes in order to have that actually affect and have some measurement that you could actually measure the flexibility of the arteries and say, hey, that is there. But now what else do you have is the fact that there are a third hand smoke and a fourth hand smoke. The third hand smoke is that smoke that's left in the clothes. Let's say that somebody who smokes and all of a sudden you get near them, you can just, or even their clothes, and you can just smell that reeking smell of nicotine and other smoke related products. That's third hand smoke, and that has a very high level of risk. Fourth hand smoke is the smoking habits that we see of celebrities and other heroes in our lives. That if you're looking at an old movie and everybody is smoking, and it's just, that becomes a glamour issue. It's something that you want to emulate. People in power used to smoke, so when I get that corner office, whatever. So in other words, you're preconditioning your mind to be more receptive to taking up the habit of smoking, and that's called fourth hand or fourth degree smoke. So that's something that most of us don't even know about, and it's kind of interesting. Heart monitoring. If you have a precondition or an increased risk for any kind of heart disease, regardless of what it is, and you have high blood pressure, you ought to monitor your blood pressure on a regular basis. Keep a journal. Time of the day. If you measure your blood pressure, is it morning, noon, and night? What is the time of the day that it's most high? Is it in the evening before you go to bed? Is it when you wake up? Is it whatever it is? Monitor your blood pressure. Monitor your pulse. If you have a oximeter, one that measures the oxygen levels in the blood, go ahead and record those too, because this is all information that if you have a trending towards something that is going to be an issue, then that becomes something that you can sit down and share that information with your doctor. So the more information you have in order to say, hey, for the last 3 months, this went fine. Then all of a sudden, 2 weeks ago, this started happening. And 2 weeks is a good clue. Things generally in 10 days to 2 weeks, they're either going to stay the same, they're going to get better, or get worse. So if they're staying the same, that's a clue. Maybe they're not getting any better. You maybe need to really pay attention to that. Beyond that 2 weeks, a month down the road, and they're not getting any better, but they're still there. And this doesn't matter whether it's a cough or runny nose, something is wrong. And that's more than enough time for the body to heal itself. So if things are starting to get worse, now you have a record that says, okay, I went from this blood pressure to this, whatever it may happen to be. That record is going to be invaluable when you actually get a chance to talk to your doctor. Quality sleep. One of the best things that you can possibly do. If you have problems going to sleep, do not recommend sleeping aids. There are a lot of issues that, you get to sleep, but the body actually doesn't get into the sleep regimen that it needs. When we're sleeping, that is when we actually repair everything in the body that needs repairing. So if I happen to have a late night meal, it takes a few hours for that digestion to actually go through. So that's going to disrupt my sleep pattern. If I have a couple of glasses of wine, that's going to disrupt my sleep factor until the body processes the wine out. Some people, I talk at various events and I say, do you ever have a situation where Yeah, you have a couple, 3 or 4 glasses of wine, you go to bed, you're just kind of mellow state 3, everything is good. You lay down, you fall asleep, and boom, 2:07 in the morning, you wake up wide awake. Well, that's that point in time where the alcohol in the body actually was stopped the digestion, and the liver concentrated and getting rid of everything dealing with the alcohol. Now all of a sudden that process is over. Now the body gets back to digesting, and that transition has a tendency sometimes to wake people up, and you have no idea in the world why you woke up in the middle of the night. Now you have another period that you have to try to get back to sleep. So if you're going to be eating 3 hours before going to bed, same thing with alcohol, 3 hours before going to bed. And again, one, maybe at most 2 glasses, and you're fine. You start going beyond that, and you're outside the moderation range. But quality sleep is the one that you really and truly need. I recommend EMF, emotional freedom techniques. You can find them on YouTube. Pranayamas are breathing exercises, but the quality sleep is the tapping, whether you do it on the various parts of your body. There's a mantra that goes with it and allows your body to literally just sink nice and quietly into sleep. Some people include extra, trying to think of the name of it right now, melatonin. You don't want to take the melatonin during daytime, but melatonin 3 or 4 hours before going to bed might be a solution. But that's one that's also there. Next slide, Dr. Jacqueline, please. Okay, as we're continuing our hacks, habits, and hints, hydration. Many of us don't hydrate as much as we can. Bottled water is available nearly everywhere. The availability is there. We're just not taking advantage of it. Why? Some people don't want to go to the bathroom. Have no idea why not. But hydration is super critical. You want to get rid of fluids. Hydration is one of the ways. It just keeps you sated. There's just so many things to be said for it. Too much hydration is an issue. Yeah, you can overwhelm the electrolytes. They go out. If you're doing a lot of exercise, again, you need not only the hydration, but you also need the electrolytes too. So the hydration becomes a major problem. Consistency in whatever we're doing. If we're exercising on a regular basis, need that. Annual checkups, at least once a year. You need to know where you've been and where you're going. Happiness, your expectation generally keeps you happy. If you're worried about something, you're into eating more, you're in your comfort zone of eating. Lots of trade-offs there between happiness and comfort. Happiness is the emotional stability that you need. Being in a comfort zone makes you feel happy, but doesn't necessarily reduce the risks associated with any kind of heart disease. So you need to know what the risks are for your heart disease. You need to know what the symptoms are. If you don't know those, you don't know where you are or where you're going. Let's go to the next slide so we can wrap these things up, Dr. Jacqueline. CPR. If you are living with somebody who has heart disease, heart issues, heart failure, and you don't know how to do CPR, you are at a disadvantage. CPR is one of the best things that you could ever learn how to do. Family member of ours had a problem not that long ago, and I had a chance, first time in my life, to ever do CPR on a live person, and we did that until the ambulance arrived. Had I not known how to do it, would I have been as eager to do it? You see the pictures, you know how to do it. Maybe you did it 20 years ago at some class at work. But if you're not current in it, go down and become current. Know how to do it. If something happens and your loved one or somebody stops breathing, you need to know what to do right then and there. You can't wait for the ambulance to get there. I already talked about smiling and laughing as an instantaneous way to reduce tension, stress, those things. 2 last items, and we're going to call it quits for today. One is called oil pulling. I put a small tablespoon of coconut oil in my mouth, and I'll swish it back and forth between my teeth as if it were a mouthwash. It's extremely good about pulling toxins out of the body. Once a day, I usually do it when I'm doing my digital review in the morning after getting up. I do that before I brush my teeth. Spit it out, do not swallow it. But it's a very good practice. So if you want to look up oil pulling, it'll tell you everything you need to know. Calcium and pH. Calcium is needed in the bloodstream in many, many different functions. However, as oxidized cholesterol is plaque that gets built up in the arteries, calcium is also plaque that gets built up in the arteries. But the calcium gets there because you don't have enough vitamin K2 in the body. And when you have enough vitamin K2 and the calcium actually gets into the bloodstream because you have enough magnesium and enough vitamin D3, the calcium is there, it goes to the bones. But when you don't have enough vitamin K2, that calcium ends up in your heart valves and arteries. That's where you have that plaque buildup. Well, you can reverse that with extra vitamin K2, but it's got to be a certain kind of monoquinone 4 at a certain level. That's a topic for another day. Or topic for research if it's something very near and dear and close to your heart. But the opposite part of the equation is you can get the calcium into the bones and maybe even into the heart valves and arteries. But if you're not keeping your body in an alkaline level, your body's actually going to leach calcium out of the bones back into your bloodstream. So now your bones are going to become less dense, more susceptible to brittleness, osteoporosis down the road. So it's not a single, this is the only thing I'm done again. It's something that you need, again, awareness. That's part of this whole program on Talking Heads. Let's make people aware of things. We'll educate them a little bit. If they want to know more, they can go out and get some more information. I write about all these topics all the time on my website, red.olaughlin.com. And at that point in time, I think I am going to call it quits for today and get back with Dr. Jacqueline if she is available. We've been having some problems today with technology on StreamYard. So if she's not there, then I understand. And thank you, Andre. Appreciate the kind comments you had down there today.
Hi, Red. I'm back.
I see. I saw your note that you were frozen again, but I see you got unfrozen very quickly.
Yes, I think I did. Fortunately, great lesson. Thank you so much.
Well, before we freeze up again, I'm going to go ahead and say you can reach me at red.olaughlin.com. That's red.olaughlin, red.olaughlin.com, or red@red.olaughlin.com is an email, or red.olaughlin@gmail.com. That's red, red.olaughlin. Dr. Jacqueline, I'm turning the show back over to you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.